Come on, baby! Come on! Yes! Come on!
NFL playoffs are officially here. By the way, if you guys want to see the picks I've made for the NFL playoffs, I think I hit some bangers on Prize Picks. Make sure you're following me on Instagram, and if you aren't signed up for Prize Picks, a link to that's in the description down below. Well, we have a great slate of games for us, both on Saturday and on Sunday. And unfortunately, my Dallas Cowboys are on Monday Night Football, but that doesn't come without any shortage of drama. And we need to catch you guys up on everything going on, because there's a lot of speculation happening here, a lot of wild theories being thrown out that we definitely need to debunk and sift through with some legitimate facts, especially because there's teammates of Lamar Jackson that are just twisting this situation to a new level. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we got all that out of the way, work! A lot of you guys have been hitting me up in the DMs telling me how much money you've been making on Prize Picks. A huge shout out to my subscriber Spencer Sims, who's made $7,000 off of his picks over the past 2 weeks. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I play Prize Picks religiously and I post my picks to my story each and every day. And if you want to try out Prize Picks right now, when you use my promo code Mikerophone, you'll get up to a $100 deposit match on your first deposit. And if you get any big hits on Prize Picks, make sure you DM them to me on Instagram so I could feature you in future promos. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? This year has been a very tumultuous year for Lamar Jackson, and as a matter of fact, you could thank the ineptitude of the Cleveland Browns for that, which, by the way, are going through their own thing currently now that their season's over. With, let's just put the Deshaun Watson stuff aside, Jadeveon Clowney has had this like mini war against the Cleveland Browns recently, and that's a different conversation for a different time. But the reason why the Baltimore Ravens could thank the Cleveland Browns for the situation they're in currently is, originally Lamar Jackson wanted a contract extension, and his rationale for a contract extension made a lot of sense. He won an MVP during his first contract and is without a doubt a huge driving force behind the Baltimore Ravens' success. As a matter of fact, it's not a bold statement to say that he is the most successful Baltimore Ravens quarterback of all time. Yes, he hasn't won a Super Bowl like Joe Flacco did, but when you take into consideration the type of player he is, Lamar Jackson brings a Atlanta Falcons Michael Vick-like presence and electricity to the game of football. Baltimore Ravens fans absolutely love watching this man play football. He has a tremendous amount of support and a lot of fans, and I do think you could win a Super Bowl with him. But even if you don't win a Super Bowl with him, everyone on the Baltimore Ravens roster loves him. All Baltimore Ravens fans love him, and for that in of itself, I think a deal should have been done last year. At the very minimum, the Baltimore Ravens should have attempted to get a deal done before Kyler Murray's deal got done. Unfortunately, that's not what they did, and Kyler Murray ended up becoming the third highest paid player in NFL history, and with every quarterback that gets paid results in the Baltimore Ravens needing to pay Lamar Jackson even more. That's just how quarterback contracts work. Things really got turned upside its head once Deshaun Watson got his fully guaranteed deal following his trade to the Cleveland Browns. Remember, prior to this deal, Deshaun Watson had an additional contract extension from the Houston Texans around the time where Patrick Mahomes got his huge contract extension following winning a Super Bowl. The exact contract was a 4-year, $177.5 million extension with $111 million in guarantees. The crazy thing about this is Watson would play one entire season, then sit out an entire season. Next thing you know, he has the craziest contract in the NFL, a fully guaranteed $230 million deal. Obviously, Lamar Jackson felt some type of way about this. This man played one full season in the NFL and he's getting paid more money than I am. I mean, he didn't even do anything for the Cleveland Browns and they're paying him more than the Ravens are paying me. And the entire offseason was littered with this type of drama, and it made things even more difficult once you realize that Lamar Jackson was negotiating on his own behalf. He made his feelings appear known on Twitter countless times during the summer. I mean, you guys remember this exchange on Twitter where he said that the Baltimore Ravens didn't offer him $250 million guaranteed. There was also this tweet of him flirting with the Miami Dolphins where he liked a tweet of him in a Dolphins jersey to fuel speculation. But But regardless, the Ravens and Lamar Jackson couldn't come to terms on a contract extension, and he decided to bet on himself and play an additional season this year, which is essentially a gigantic dice roll. I mean, if Kyler Murray would have done that this season, then he may not have gotten the type of contract that he would have gotten in the offseason, considering how horrible the season went for him and the fact that he sustained a major injury. And in the case of Lamar Jackson, whether or not this betting on himself was warranted is up for discussion. I mean, on one hand, he did lead the Baltimore Ravens to an 8-4 record when he did play games. He had 764 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground, and 2,242 passing yards with 17 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. So definitely a little bit better than last year. Now, when you consider the fact that Lamar Jackson's 26 years old, the Ravens are once again in the playoffs, which we need to discuss that situation in of itself, then you could call the Baltimore Ravens losers in this case, because they should have extended him last year, because you're probably going to have to extend him this offseason. They have the money to extend him this offseason, and they recently decided to spend that money elsewhere, extending Roquan Smith. Now, I'm not going to hate on the Baltimore Ravens for extending Roquan Smith, because there is no player that clearly made a bigger impact on any team than Roquan Smith did on the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, look at this graphic. This is insane. Before trading for Roquan Smith, the Baltimore Ravens were 20th in points per game, 24th in yards per game, 22 in total QBR, and 14th in yards per rush. Ever since trading for Roquan Smith, those numbers have dwindled significantly. And whenever you have a player like Lamar Jackson at the quarterback position, you want to make sure he's supported by a phenomenal defense. Whenever you have a power running scheme that Greg Roman is running, you want to make sure that that's complemented by a very good defense. That's what the San Francisco 49ers did in the Jim Harbaugh era, and it took them to 3 NFC championships. And it seems like that's what the Baltimore Ravens are trying to do. Look at the Baltimore Ravens as the early 2010s version of the San Francisco 49ers, except Lamar Jackson is several orders of magnitude better than Colin Kaepernick is, but he has the same offensive coordinator. His head coach is literally the brother of the man that coached those early 2010 49ers teams. They're trying to build a suffocating defense, and to be honest, so far they're doing a phenomenal job with the draft picks that they've had recently. I mean, to give you an idea of the type of players the Ravens have, they have Calais Campbell and Jason Pierre-Paul, who are 2 veteran studs on the edge. They have Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey as their corners. They have Marcus Williams and Chuck Clark as their safeties. It's only a matter of time before Kyle Hamilton takes that next step. I am a huge believer in his game. They have Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen as their linebackers. I mean, I could go on and on about this defense, and it makes sense why their wide receiver core is so thin as a result of the defense that they have. I don't necessarily understand memes like this that are roasting the fact that the Ravens made this decision, because the situation they're in with Lamar Jackson currently is very, very complicated, although I do think this team could win a Super Bowl if he could play. And it appears as though one of his teammates agrees. So if you guys don't know what's going on, currently there's some drama surrounding the fact that Lamar Jackson is not in condition to play during this week's playoff game versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this is fairly significant, especially considering the fact that just 5 days earlier, the Bengals beat the Baltimore Ravens. So one would have to assume that there might be a similar result here, unless John Harbaugh just straight up outcoaches Zach Taylor, which, by the way, could happen. So Lamar Jackson isn't playing due to injury, and he has teammates like Sammy Watkins saying this: in this league, everybody is pretty much banged up, hurt. I don't want to speak for him and his situation and whatever he's going through with the contracts. I don't know what world he's in, but for me, you got a chance to do something special. We all know with Lamar Jackson out there, this team is really freaking good, and special things can happen. He can will this team to a Super Bowl. I don't think he's thinking about it that way. Before we get to the rest of this quote, I think it's so funny that this is coming from Sammy Watkins of all people. You know, the guy that was the first wide receiver taken in a loaded 2014 wide receiver draft class that is on his second team this season, that isn't necessarily known for being the pinnacle of durability either, is calling out his teammate and is hinting that this is all a financial dispute. So he continues to say he's got an opportunity to win a Super Bowl. I hope he hobbles back out there. Put him out for the pass plays and don't run him at all. But you never know, that could be wrong. I'm being very selfish right now. I just want him to be out on the field. But man, what a great thing it would be to see number 8 touch the field this Sunday and we go out there and blow them out. But that's for Lamar and everybody else to figure out. Hope miraculously something happens, somebody reach out to him, whether it's coach or somebody, and he decides to play. But that's a question if he's healthy or he's not. I don't know. I haven't been watching him. I just love how ignorant this is. I mean, there is so much to just dissect here. One being the fact that I'm sure if Lamar Jackson could make his way onto the field and will his team to a Super Bowl, then he would. I mean, there's nothing that would guarantee him a bigger payday than taking the Baltimore Ravens all the way to a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl for them despite being slightly injured, or even taking them to the AFC Championship, man. There's no question in my mind that that would guarantee him probably the largest contract in the NFL. I mean, I could see the Ravens ponying up over $50 million per year and beating out Aaron Rodgers' contract if Lamar Jackson takes him to a Super Bowl. The thing that frustrates me about the NFL is there's this like culture where a player is injured, but come on, man, it's just an injury. You could just shoot up some Toradol, hobble onto the field with your strained PCL. I mean, actually, it's not even a strain. This is what Lamar Jackson says. Thank you, everybody, for your support and concerns regarding my injuries. I want to give you all an update as I am in the recovery process. I've suffered a PCL grade 2 sprain on the borderline of a strain 3. There's still some inflammation surrounding my knee, and my knee remains unstable, and I'm still in good spirits. As I continue with my treatments on the road to recovery, I wish I could be out there with my guys more than anything, but I can't give 100% of myself to my guys and fans. I'm still hopeful that we still have a chance. So I don't think this is a financial thing. I mean, a lot of people think that Lamar Jackson's holding out. Now, if he was under contract, would he potentially play? No, I don't think he would have. I don't think this has anything to do with Lamar Jackson holding out just as a form of protest to the Baltimore Ravens, because he's a competitor and he's a very professional guy. I mean, these contract negotiations started with him saying, I'm just focused on football for now, and this is going to work itself out. I don't think he'd take it to this level, but that isn't stopping people from creating rumors about the entire situation. I mean, you have the New York Jets owner, Woody Johnson, saying that he would happily pony up a significant amount of capital and sign Lamar Jackson if the opportunity presented itself. So could this be the end of Lamar Jackson on the Baltimore Ravens? Well, it really depends. If the Baltimore Ravens get upset at Lamar Jackson for not shooting himself up with Toradol and showing up to their playoff game, then yeah, it could be. I mean, this is very similar to what Kawhi Leonard went through with the San Antonio Spurs, where back a couple of years ago, all of his San Antonio Spurs teammates were begging him to play basketball. His uncle was like, yo, what the hell? What's up with all of your teammates forcing you to play on an injury? And as a result, Kawhi Leonard's a little traumatized. He's notorious for the amount of games he takes off, even if he is suffering from a minor injury. The reason being, if he prolongs his career, he'll make significantly more money. And in the case of Lamar Jackson, sometimes Lamar Jackson needs to look out for Lamar Jackson, because in this instance, there is a world where Lamar Jackson decides to shoot himself up with Toradol, play in the NFL playoffs this week, sustains an even more significant injury that alters his ability to play football for good. Think of what happened to Robert Griffin III and how his injury was mismanaged. The Washington football team wasn't very understanding once RG3 was so traumatized from scrambling that he decided to make himself into a pocket passing QB. No, they cut him loose the moment it made sense to. I mean, the man was literally off the roster like 2.5 years later. So what do I think about this situation? Well, if Lamar Jackson could play, I think he could play. I don't think this has anything to do with this contract at all whatsoever. And I think the most likely ending for this contract dispute would be for the Baltimore Ravens to franchise tag Lamar Jackson, and he'll have a similar ending to this entire saga as Dak Prescott did with the Dallas Cowboys, who tagged him twice before deciding to sign him to a contract extension. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this, man. I felt like this drama was very unnecessary, and hell, no disrespect to Bengals fans, but I really think that with proper game planning with Snoop Huntley in, which by the way wasn't the quarterback that was in the last time the Bengals played the Ravens have a very legitimate chance. On a completely different note, let's talk about how this could really make Tyler Huntley's career. I mean, if he comes out and balls out against the Cincinnati Bengals, I wouldn't be surprised if some team, not the Indianapolis Colts, but another team that isn't that convinced about this year's NFL draft class that wants a bridge quarterback, would take a deeper look at Tyler Huntley. So let me know what you guys think about all this, man. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.